How's it going so far? This is going to be an exciting lesson because we're going to bring animation into our project. So far, we click the press here to start game and we get an airplane. We're tracking our key presses as well, so you can see that whenever we press items on the keyboard, those are getting output, and we're tracking that within the keys object. So we're all ready to bring our animation. The animation is going to be done through Windows request animation frame object in JavaScript. It's a method that basically allows you to perform animation requests. So what it does is it loops through and continuously will loop through a particular function. So in this example on the Mozilla Developer Network, they have a step function that's going to continuously loop through until the value of progress. And while the value of progress is less than 2000, it's going to continuously request that same animation frame, so that same step function within itself. So it will continuously do this transformation and do this set of code until the animation runs out. And then it gets initiated down here with the request animation step. So we're going to do the same thing in our project where we've got our start game, and this is going to trigger off the window request animation frame. And then all we need to do is specify the function that we want to kick off. We're going to call it play game. Then opening up a function, creating a function called play game. This is where we're going to continuously loop through and calculate out all of the movement that we need to take place in order to move our character around. And then within this same play game, we're going to continuously keep looping that play game animation. And the way that we're going to check to see if we should keep looping through is we're going to use this in-play function. Now that we've set it to true, we're going to check to see if it is true, and if it is, then we're going to continuously loop out. And once this value is no longer true, then our animation frame is going to stop. So that's going to be the main core of the way that our application is going to function. So next, we need to introduce listening for whatever the key values are. And remember, coming in, so every one of these animation frames, and I'll list out keys for now, you're going to see that this keys object, once we start, it's going to continuously be outputting. So it's looping through this request animation frame, and that's where we're getting all of these key objects being listed out, and it's continuously growing our massive list here within the console. So now we can make use of our key tracking that we had set up earlier, where we're tracking whenever we press a key. You can see that it's going to update. I got to get way to the bottom of this massive list, and you can see that up arrow now has been included, because at one point here I pressed up arrow and it was true. And if up arrow is true, then we want to move our airplane up. So let's take care of that. So going into where we've got our play game, we can detect to see if the value of keys and arrow, it's actually arrow up, is going to be the key event name. And we're also using that within the object name as well to reference it. So we're checking to see if this value is true. And if it is, then we want to move our airplane up. And the way that we're going to do that is, first of all, we need a few other things that we need to take care of. And that's setting up some more values within player. So using that player object, setting player X, I'm taking the value of player plane. So this is that plane object that we created earlier, and using offset left in order to get its position off of the left side. And then I'm taking player Y, so this is a new object that I'm creating, and then also from the player plane object that we created, we're taking offset top. So what these values are going to do is this is going to give me a numeric value of where the plane is positioned. So the X and Y coordinates of where it currently is. And we're going to utilize that within our plane game area, and we're going to update that player Y value. So taking player Y and updating it, so increasing it by whatever the player speed value is. And we can do the same thing for the down arrow. So the arrow down. So if arrow down is true, then while it's true, we're going to decrease the value of Y. And actually, it's the other way around, because decreasing moves it up and increasing moves it down. So just before we finish up our animation frame, we're going to update the position of player plane. So that's that object that we created. Remember, it's in a global value of player. So that plane is the one that we've got here on the screen that we're able to see. we're selecting its style and selecting left position. So we're going to reset the left position, and we're going to reset it to whatever the value of x is. And because this is a numeric value, we have to add in the pix. And then doing the same thing for player plane style top, because remember this is absolute, so we can move it around. And with JavaScript, we can reset the style properties. So that's what we're going to do here. So let's try that out. So going in here, we click. So pushing down moves it down. Pushing up moves it up. So there's two other things that we need to take care of, and that's going to be moving it forward and then also moving it backwards. So arrow, and this one is arrow left value. So instead of X, we're going to move along instead of Y, we're going to move around the horizontal. And this is going to be arrow right, because we know that we've got 4 arrow keys on our keyboard. So one of them is going to move it left, one of them is going to move it right, and left is the decreasing one. So always try that out. So now I'm pushing forward, so I'm moving the plane forward, now I'm moving it back, down, and up. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner which of the key values is true, and that's corresponding with the movement. And also I can do combinations, so I can press 2 keys at once, and I can get this kind of angled movement, so both going forward and up and down. So now we've got animation and movement within our project. So we're moving along very close to completing this project. So this is the core functionality that we needed, and of course we need a few other things with the keyboard space, where we're going to drop some bombs and we're going to create those, as well as we need to create an enemy base that we need to target. There's quite a few things still to do, but this was one of the core pieces of functionality that I want to introduce within this section. So go ahead and try this out for yourself. Get this working so that you can press your keyboard keys, arrow keys, up, down, left, right, and have the element that you created in the earlier lesson move around the page. And don't forget that you do need to set position absolute so that you can adjust the style properties to top and left. And if you go and if you do an inspect on it before we conclude, you can see that I've got style left and style top. And as I'm pressing the keys, you can see that this is also updating and it's moving. And I'm not sure why I ended up with 2 of them. I think every time we press start game, we're creating a new plane. So that's why we're ending up with so many different planes. So that is another thing that we need to take care of course, that it looks like we're generating multiple planes. So there's a few things to still tweak, and that's still all to come.